Welcome. My name is Dennis DeLoach. Welcome to the Uncle Jim Effect podcast. This is episode number 10, and the title of this one is going to be called Believe in Yourself. And I want to thank you so much for joining me along this journey with these podcasts. Hard to believe I'm on episode number 10, but I am, and I'm excited. And I hope it's bringing value to you and those around you. And if you would, please hit the subscribe button. That means the world to us. And if you like the video, please like the button and then share it with your friends and family. As the goal and purpose of this podcast is to create a tsunami of hope for all the people that we can. And so the only way to do that is to be able to share it. So let's get on to the topic at hand, and that's belief in yourself. Again, I love to start with quotes, and I like to really define exactly what we're talking about here. So let's start with a quote that we're going to work with, and that will kind of have the underlying theme throughout what we're going to do. So this, unfortunately, is by Anonymous. I think that person has had a lot of great quotes attributed to him, but it is by Anonymous, so we can't give anybody any credit. But the quote is, "There's no need to be perfect to inspire others. Let people get inspired by how you deal with your imperfections." I love that. And that's exactly the concept of this podcast. We do not have to be perfect to help others. And in fact, sometimes the greatest level of hope that I've received in my life have come from people that have made tremendously big mistakes, but in seeing them overcome them, it's always just been a tremendous value to me. As I've mentioned before, my background is that of a dentist. I practiced dentistry for over 35 years and loved every minute of it. Had a very successful practice, which later became a larger group. And I was the CEO of that for quite a while. But the one thing that was the most value to me was over the years, as I would get to know my patients, I would hear stories of the issues and problems that they would have in their families and with their children. I would see patients that went through tremendous struggles with addiction. And it was always so overwhelming to me, the strength that I would see from these people as they started to overcome these addictions. And it brought strength to me. And so I just want to make sure that we talk about that concept of there's no need to be perfect to inspire others. Let people get inspired by how you deal with your imperfections. And that's the goal of this whole podcast, but specifically today, we're going to talk about that. So what is the definition of belief? I like to start off with the basic concept, start right with the definition. And basically, belief is the acceptance that a statement is true. It doesn't necessarily mean that statement is true, but it's the acceptance that that statement is true. We're going to talk about that a little bit and what that means. So, why does believing in yourself even matter? Why do we talk about that? Uh, I can tell you why, because every great accomplishment, and I mean every great accomplishment I've ever accomplished, you've ever accomplished, or anyone's ever accomplished, begins with a belief statement, whether that's out loud or inside your mind and your thought. So at some point when we've decided to do something great in our life, it started with a thought that was a belief that you could do it, or an external statement where you're basically talking that you could do it. And I'm going to share a couple of examples with me. I've mentioned before my great friend and mentor, Tom Shea, former head of the Navy SEAL sniper program, was a Navy SEAL for 23 years, had a tremendous influence on me. He had the concept, and what he taught me was what he called the I am statements. And an I am statement is simply where you determine in that area of your life what it is that you are. For example, in the physical part of my life at that point, I was becoming a hiker or a runner. And so my I am statement was, I am a runner. And if there's anything farther from the truth, it's that I am a runner. People that know me, I'm a former linebacker in college. I'm north of 250 pounds. So I am absolutely not a runner. But as I adopted that I am statement, or that belief in that I am a runner, that as I thought about that when times got tough, I literally would repeat that. And there was a little system I would go through that Tom taught me, and it absolutely changed the outcomes that I had. And it came to be such a source of inspiration and strength to me during the tough times, specifically in this case, dealing with hiking, running, and all the things that pertain to that. But an I am statement is simply a declaration uh, that this that I am a runner. And if I accepted that that statement was true, you might not accept that I am a runner, but I did, and that's all that mattered. And so it's critical to me to understand this concept that if every great achievement in our life and the lives of all those around us have began with a statement or a thought that was a belief, then we better know how to do that. So again, those are the concepts of an I am statement. I also want to share another one with you that's a little more personal. In the spiritual aspect of my life, my I am statement was I am a disciple of Jesus Christ. And when I first said that, it just, I don't know why, it just didn't sit with me right. To me, the word disciple had a higher connotation of what I pictured myself in being. But as I again looked up that definition, all a disciple is a follower. So if I am a disciple of Jesus Christ, that just means I follow him, and I'm good with that. That is good for me. It didn't say I'm a perfect disciple or I'm the best disciple, just like my I am statement of being a runner didn't say I am the best runner or I am a better runner than you. It just said I am a runner. And as long as I am running, however I define that, then I am a runner. Anyway, I hope those examples help you a little bit. They really worked well for me. One thing about belief in self, the biggest hurdle we come to are going to be is that little devil we have on our shoulder that keeps saying that you're not good enough, you can't do this. Um, the mistakes we make in our life are going to be screaming loud and clear. Unfortunately, we're going to have friends and neighbors and colleagues and associates that don't want us to improve ourselves. And so they're going to be telling you that you can't do it or you've had these mistakes in the past. A big component of belief in self is to accept the fact that you are not perfect, that you have made mistakes in the past. And in fact, as we talked about that, the quote in the beginning, let people get inspired by how you deal with your imperfections or mistakes or faults. And so we're going to talk a little bit today about mistakes. And I think that we've got some really good examples of mistakes and why that should never be uh, a hindrance to anything you want to do. In fact, another quote, Mahatma Gandhi, one of the great philosophers of all time, said this quote, and it deals with mistakes. And it says, my imperfections and failures are as much a blessing from God as my successes and my talents. And I lay them both at his feet. Isn't that interesting? That our successes and our failures and success and talent are all blessings from God. So I understand why a success or a talent is a blessing from God. I mean, that gives me joy. It blesses my family. It blesses those that I serve. It blesses all those that I help. But how is a failure a blessing from God? Well, I think we all know that basically when we have a failure, it's just simply a course correction, that maybe we weren't on the right course. Maybe we didn't take the right actions. Maybe that's not the path that we need to be on at that time to help the most people and to bring the most benefit and joy to us. I do know that our Father in heaven absolutely has a phenomenally, unbelievably detailed plan that is set up specifically for us. And a lot of times we don't see that. And so as we get off course, we'll get those corrections or failures, And that's all a failure is something that tells you, hey, I'm going to nudge you this way. Step back, learn from this. You're not ready for the successes I'm bringing your way yet until you learn this principle. I know in my life, I've had some significant failures. And from each of those failures, I knew, I didn't know at the time, but I knew after the fact that, wow, that failure, although I didn't understand it at the time, taught me this lesson, which I needed to really exponentially grow this direction, which is the way the Lord wanted me to go. So do not be afraid of failures. Understand that those are also gifts from God. And we always tend to look back on those as blessings if we handle it right. And we look at basically all a success or a failure is input from God, input from the universe, or input from what you're doing. So sometimes that input's not good. That's okay. Evaluate it, redirect it, and go another direction. So we talk about imperfections. We talk about uh, flaws, and so that led me to this concept that just honestly, I love this concept, and it was presented to me a couple of years ago, and it's a Japanese word, and it's called kintsugi. That's Kintsugi, kintsugi. And kintsugi is the Japanese art of pottery repair, and it's traced back, depending upon which source you believe, to the 15th or 16th century, which is a long time ago. And uh, this process was where a valuable pottery, and not so much value in finances, but it could have been value that was a heirloom handed down by our family, or that was a bowl or a cup that I used to spend meals with talking to my children. And so there was a lot of value, personal value uh, in this vessel or this pottery. And so what they did, instead of having a flawed, broken vessel, which we can liken ourselves to, what this process did was it painstakingly put together these broken pieces of this vessel or this pottery. In this case, we're talking specifically about pottery, but we're going to liken it to ourselves. And so this process basically would take these flaws, and you've probably seen some of these where you take a cup that's shattered, they put it together, and along the seams and creases where this margin is, th- this process would literally, they would bring that together, and the process was gluing it, but they would highlight these flaws in this pottery, and they would highlight it with gold so that not only was it repaired, but there was a history of this flaw, and it was speaking loud, bright, and right up front about, hey, I've had some flaws, and here's where I had cracks, and this is the issue I had when I fell. And aren't we like that as human beings? All of us have flaws. All of us fall, stumble, and break. How do we react to that? Typically, in my life, when I've had that, I want to hide, and I do not want people to know all the flaws I have. You know, I have pride, and I'm probably a lot like you, to where, you know, if we want to talk about things in a conversation, I'd much rather talk about the good things I've done than all the flaws I have. But again, people get inspired by how you deal with your imperfections. So if we're going to make flaws, and we all do, why not use those to inspire people? And so I think in our life, as we talk about how do we apply this, it's okay to have flaws in our life. Don't run and hide from them, but try to mend it back together as good as you can. And don't be afraid to highlight those flaws down the road as you try to help people and inspire them. And so I love that concept. This process took a while. I read some articles on this that said there were um, time frames for some of these things that took a couple of years back then, painstakingly, a teeny bit at a time, over and over and over. And it took a long time. And the value on that was to literally show that these flaws are beautiful. And isn't that how it is? All these lessons we learn in our life, or these imperfections we have, or these mistakes we make, no matter how big they are, and some of them are huge, it does not matter. We can always, through the process of kintsugi, we can always have our flaws made beautiful. Sometimes it just takes time. And so I want to make sure that this will probably be one of the most important things that we talk about, and one of the most important things that I hope to bring value to you in. Is this whole podcast started with how my Uncle Jim brought value to me based on a belief he had in me when I didn't have it in myself. And because of that, I see where I am now versus where I might have been had I just relied on what I thought of myself or what I thought my potential was. So as we do that, absolutely along the way, there are going to be imperfections, flaws, mistakes. That's okay. How do we handle those flaws, imperfections, and mistakes is how we are judged as a person. I promise you that there is no mistake in your life that you've ever made that is below the ability of Jesus Christ himself to help you out of. That there is no level you have sunk to, irregardless of what mistake you have made, that disqualifies you from having a phenomenal life that he himself is orchestrating for you. Believe that. If you haven't heard it, and if you can't believe it yourself, at this point, at least take my word for it and trust me as you work through the process. And there will be a day when you look back uh, figuratively at your life and see all of the cracks that we have in ourselves, and they will have been glued and made beautiful with gold as you continue down this process. The worst thing you could do is to give up, to quit, and to believe that you're not worthy. Remember the I am statements. I am a runner. That was an absolutely true statement to me. It didn't matter what anyone else thought. It did not say I was the best runner, the fastest runner, or anything other than I am a runner. And as long as I don't quit and I don't give in, I will be successful. In every area of your life, you need an I am statement. It's not fluff. It's not that I say it once, twice, spin around and click my heels together and it's magic. It, as I, in my example, as I went out every day and hiked in the mountains here in Utah, and I pushed and I did all these things with a bad knee and with a torn Achilles, all these things that I did, it was absolutely tough, but I kept saying, I am a runner. I am a runner. And as I would repeat that over and over, it got to be to the point where I knew something tough was coming. I would start repeating that and I would just start chuckling like, well, I know I'm going to get through it because I am a runner. And so I hope that's helped you a little bit. I want to finish with a quote from Buddha. And I like this quote. It seems like Buddha himself has had some great quotes over time, but it says, there are only two mistakes one can make along the road to truth: not going all the way and not starting. So today, you are going to start. There are no excuses. Today, you're going to start. And once you start, you're going to go all the way. That didn't say you're going to get first place. You're just not going to quit. So today, we're going to start. I want to kind of go over everything we talked about today because this is a phenomenal uh, lesson if we can learn it together. So the challenge I've got to you today is we're going to challenge you to start today. Excuse me. I've been fighting sore throat, but you can't catch that over the podcast screen. So I want to challenge you, not tomorrow, not in an hour, start right now today, whatever it is that you're talking about, but you're going to start today in believing in yourself. Again, have an I am statement, believe in yourself, and embrace your flaws today. They're the flaws that were given to you, that you've experienced to make you grow. Your set of flaws are no worse or no better than mine. I needed my flaws to grow in the areas I needed to, and you just happen to have flaws that you need to grow in. through the process of Kintsugi, realize that your flaws will put you back together, and those flaws can be beautiful. You can use those flaws to inspire others based on how you respond to those flaws or setbacks or traumas that you've had in your life. You can do this. I believe in you, and more importantly, you need to believe in yourself. Don't settle for anything. Start today. Don't quit. Thank you. And until next podcast, get busy getting after it. Thank you.